Well, Linz,
Yes.
it is April still. And you know what April is?
What is April?
April is PMDD Awareness Month. And that means Premenstrual Dysphoric Disorder.
Wow.
Yes. So I thought it was really important to talk about this today because I personally have PMDD and I've dealt with it and struggled with it for years before I actually got diagnosed with it officially. And I do want to say a quick trigger warning because one of the symptoms does deal with suicidal ideation. So as a trigger warning, just pause the video, stop the audio if you don't want to hear any topics of suicide mentioned. So got that out of the way. Okay, so premenstrual dysphoric disorder. What is it? And it's kind of scary because it sounds scary because a lot of people don't really know about it. And I think that's why another reason I really wanted to talk about it today, because of how it's not talked about and it's not known. And I can even get into my backstory of what led me to figuring out what I had and then getting diagnosed. But let's start with what it is. So premenstrual dysphoric disorder is a cyclical hormone-based mood disorder with symptoms arising during the premenstrual or luteal phase of the menstrual cycle and subsiding within a few days of menstruation. So you get that relief after you start menstruating. It affects an estimated 5.5% of women and AFAB individuals. AFAB means assigned female at birth, individuals of reproductive age. And while PMDD is directly connected to the menstrual cycle, it is not a hormone imbalance. And I want to emphasize that it is not a hormone imbalance. PMDD is a severe negative reaction in the brain to the natural rise and fall of estrogen and progesterone. Did I pronounce that right? Progesterone?
I think so. That's really fascinating.
Yes. Because a lot of the times it can get confusing as to is it a hormone imbalance? And it's actually not.
Wow.
It's a chemical reaction in your brain reacting to those hormones that are
rising and falling.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. So before I've always been pretty vocal about it, talking about it on my social media years and years ago. And I could tell you, should I tell you these symptoms first or tell you my experience first? What do you want to hear?
You could talk about your experience. I mean, I can say like you said, a lot of people don't know what PMDD is. And I didn't know until Hazel brought it up and told me about her situation.
Yeah. Okay. So it's definitely, it was interesting because it definitely shed some light on what was happening with me. And years ago, I think it was around 2017, and I just noticed that I would get in these raging moments of anger, depression, sadness, including suicidal ideation. And I would constantly get in arguments with, my boyfriend at the time, now husband, my family, just basically everyone that was closest to me. And I was just I could not put a name to what was happening to me. And then one day, JP, my boyfriend at the time, he was he started calling it something. It's not funny, but he was calling it the red monster, because your period. Mm-hmm. And it would always be around the same time of the month. It would be before the period comes. And okay, so the way I like to describe PMDD to those who don't understand is it's like PMS but on steroids. So almost every woman gets the normal PMS symptoms, but PMDD is a heightened level of all those symptoms, and you can't explain it. It's like night and day, Wow. It's like Jekyll and Hyde. Is that
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah. So it's like bipolar, and I do want to say that I think bipolar is actually one of the symptoms. Wow. So I've had it one day and I was just like, what's going on? And I just Googled everything I had, And then I started seeing articles, and shout out to this website, iapmd.org, which is an amazing resource that I went to, that I found online when I was Googling all of my symptoms. And all of a sudden a light clicked. I was like, this makes sense. And I know this is what I have, because it routinely is before my period. I started looking on YouTube, and like women were speaking about their experiences, and it made so much sense. And I was crying when I finally understood what was happening to me. And that was such a moment that really changed my life, because I was able to tell my family and friends and, you know, everyone close to me that I finally have a name to it. I finally understood what was happening to me, and I need to get the help that I need. And okay, a little bit more of a backstory. Before, I think it led to me researching this, I admitted myself to the ER because I was feeling suicidal, and I was afraid for myself. And it was one of the worst feelings, one of the worst lows I've ever felt in my life. Like, it literally, I ended up there. Like, I was like, whoa, like, you know, in tears, just a mess, like, don't even know. But laying in that, you know, cold, like, hospital bed, and obviously you're under watch and they're not going to let you go. And I'm like, oh man, I'm like ready to go. I need to get out of here, but they're not going to let you go, you know? It's just like, it was a huge turning point that I'm like, something, you know, like has to be, like, there has to be a change. So I think that's what led to me doing the research. And then again, I want to refer back to the website, which we will link in the description, iapmd.org. It has like a tracker system, because you can't actually you can't get diagnosed through like a blood test or anything.
I read that. Yeah. That's, gosh. Yeah. That's the frustrating thing about it. You can't get a simple answer. No. Or like a simple diagnosis. Yeah.
So what I did was they have, on that website, they have a little tracker system. It's basically kind of like a calendar, and you have symptoms, and you basically check off how you feel every single day of that calendar. And I think it's 3 months consecutively to see like what is happening. And if it's consistent, then, you know, if you have that many symptoms in a month, then you have it, or something like that. But it's like, you have to track your symptoms for 3 consecutive months. And so I did that, and it made sense. My symptoms lined up right before my period every single month, and I have an irregular cycle. So it's even crazier, because you just never know what's going to happen. But it was a huge turning point for me. So some of the things that I did, getting the help I needed, was seeing a therapist, and that was huge. That helped a lot. And she validated, and also was like, yep, I'm familiar with it. I'm like, oh, thank God, like somebody's familiar, because a lot of the doctors didn't even know what that was. Like, huh? You know, and it's just sad, because it's not really that out there like that. Like, it feels so taboo to talk about women's health, and it's like that running joke, like if a woman is sensitive, oh, you must be on your period. But I mean, it's 2024 now. We can openly talk about women's health, and we're in a different time where we're not going to be judged for talking about this stuff. And so, so that it's a lot to take in, you know?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I do remember you did send a text when you checked yourself to the ER, and that was kind of scary. And
did I send that to you?
Yeah, I think.
Oh shoot, I don't even remember.
Because I think at the time we were recording Thanks for the Layover Show.
Oh, I don't even remember this.
And I think we had to skip a week.
Like a week?
Yeah, because you were not feeling good.
Damn, you remember that?
Yeah, I don't
remember
even
remember that. See?
I think I think you told us after the fact.
Oh.
You told us after the fact, but I was like, oh, damn, that's really scary.
It was scary, yeah. It was really scary, because I've had plenty of moments of dealing with suicidal ideation, and I was like, this is not normal. Like, anyone that knows me knows on a regular day I'm usually happy-go-lucky, and, you know, it's fine, you know, sunshine and rainbows. But when this moment comes, that time of the month, it's bad. Like I'm down bad. I will tell you though, obviously when you're pregnant, you're not menstruating. So for me, being pregnant is actually my bliss because I'm in a happy state and I don't deal with it because I'm not menstruating. So that's the plus side of it. But I've heard a lot of women being more prone to postpartum depression if you have PMDD because of the crazy drop in the hormones level.
The fluctuations and stuff. Oh my gosh.
I will tell you, with the first pregnancy, postpartum, I did not, thank God, have like extreme postpartum depression. I did have the regular, I think it's called like the blues, but I don't think, like, I think it's a less severe version of postpartum depression. But yeah, thank God. I just hope that, after this pregnancy, like everything's going to be smooth. And I think that, yeah, it's so important to talk about this stuff. We go through so much as women.
For sure. Yeah. In this day and age, I mean, like, the fight for women's health rights is like still like one of the number one things that we're fighting for to this day. And it shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be like that.
It's so dismissed.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Women's bodies are not a political playground. Okay, let's not get into it. But yeah,
that's a whole nother episode.
A whole other episode. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into the symptoms. So there's a lot of symptoms, and I know for sure at one point or another I have crossed off all of these symptoms. Okay, so there's mood, emotional changes. So mood swings, feeling suddenly sad or tearful, or increased sensitivity to rejection. And sometimes, a lot of times, it doesn't make sense to, like, I'd be extra, emotional about something or mad about something, and I don't even know why. Irritability, anger, or increased interpersonal conflict. Ooh, that one was huge.
Interpersonal conflict.
Yes, that's what I was saying. Anybody that I was close to, they've dealt with that wrath. And it was not fun to be on my end, like having to be that way towards that person. And it was not something that I enjoyed at all, but it just comes out of you, it's like, just like, ah. Have you seen that Disney movie? I think it's called The Red Panda.
Seeing Red.
Or Seeing Red. I don't know. But it's a red panda.
Yes. Yep.
Seeing Red. Yeah. I almost feel like it's kind of like a nod to PMDD or some sort of premenstrual kind of thing.
I've never watched the movie, but people that have did allude to that. Like it's basically a girl growing up and becoming an adolescent and going through puberty and like dealing with a menstrual cycle. And Red Panda is very symbolic of the period.
Yeah. And like that interpretation is like she turns into like a huge giant panda, like a monster, and just like rages. And I'm like, dang, like this is I kind of feel like it's about that.
I love that. Thanks, Pixar.
I know. I gotta watch it again. It's actually really good. Okay, so another symptom is depressed mood, feelings of hopelessness, feeling worthless or guilty. I would have crying spells, and I'm telling you how severe this is. I would not be able to work. I would have to like call out of work for 2 to 3 days, and you're just like bedridden. That's how bad it was. I can't even make this up, but like it makes me so sad looking back at those moments that I've like had to deal with. But in those moments, all you can really do is go through the motions, and let it pass.
The only way out is through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another symptom is anxiety, tension, or feelings of being keyed up or on edge. Definitely felt that way. Decreased interest in usual activities. Example, work, school, friends, hobbies. Yep. Difficulty concentrating, focusing, or thinking. Brain fog. Huge. Tiredness or low energy. Changes in appetite, food cravings, overeating, or binge eating. Hypersomnia, which is excessive sleepiness, or insomnia, trouble falling or staying asleep. Feeling overwhelmed or out of control. Physical symptoms such as breast tenderness or swelling, joint or muscle pain, bloating, or weight gain. So yeah, those are like the pretty main symptoms, and I definitely felt all of them at one point or another.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a long list. And I can see how some people can go misdiagnosed or undiagnosed for a while because, a lot of those symptoms are like PMS symptoms or, from the outside looking in, somebody could just look at you and be like, oh, you're just being like moody today.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's not just that sometimes, you know what I mean? It could be something deeper.
Yeah. It's so sad. It's so sad that how dismissed it is, because it's very real. And when you're going through that, it's the hopelessness thing is real. Like you just don't even know how you can continue on, you know?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That part to me is like really kind of, it's tough for my mind to wrap around, because it's like, it's one thing where you feel hopeless, but then for you to try to explain to someone what you're feeling, and for them to look at you like, oh, you're just being in a mood. Like, why are you, oh, just cheer up. You know what I mean? It's like, how dismissive is that? Like, how unsupportive do you feel after that? And you're already feeling bad.
Right.
So,
and the fact that you have to go through this every single month
for about a week at a time, huh?
I don't know how JP has stayed with me for 15 years, because he has some patience, man.
Shout out to JP.
I don't know how he did it, because that will tear relationships apart. I've read stories of people just their partner could not handle being with them like that. I mean, I personally would not know how I can handle someone that has to deal with that. So, man, props to you, man. Like, that's a real MVP right there.
I think because it was a pattern, I think JP, like deep down inside, if he didn't know it, like in the forefront, I'm pretty sure in the back of his head, he knew that there was something going on, because it was a consistent thing.
Yeah.
Every month.
That's why he named it the Red Monster.
Yeah, exactly.
It was happening.
So it's like, he knew that it was a thing. Didn't know what the thing was, but it was a thing.
Yeah.
And that you would always find yourself on the other side of it after a few days. So I think that's what kept him like, yeah, this is I can deal with this.
Right.
Like, it's not that bad,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So I did talk about like diagnosis already. You just have to track it. And again, I used the website iapmd.org, and they have like printables. I think they even have an app now. I'm not even sure, but I just printed out the charts and did it that way, because I'm old school. I like to write. And you know what? I also remember once I started opening it up like to the public about PMDD on social media, a lot of women messaged me and like, oh my gosh, I think I have this. Oh my gosh, I think I know somebody who has this. How do I kind of mention it without offending them, And it just I got so many responses to it. So that's why I think, again, like, because it's not really known, it's just so important to talk about. And with my experience having it and having dealt with it, and I know it's not going to be the end for me, after this pregnancy, it's going to come back, and at least I'm better equipped now. And so, speaking of being better equipped, we want to know, what can we do to get treatment, or what are the steps we can take to be better, and how do we deal with it, basically. So really, what's really huge for me is you have to make it a lifestyle to be as active as you can, which is really important. So lifestyle changes and diet and nutrition, which is also a huge part of that. Can go for any disorder, disease, whatever, like just stay active and have a really healthy diet and nutrition. And I know that staying as active as I could, it definitely made symptoms subside. And it's not always the case where I felt like, oh, I'm so depressed today, I'm going to go to the gym, or I'm going to go for a run, because that's not real. That's not realistic, Yeah. But even if it's just a little walk around the block, get that sun, that helped, so just do the little things, Again, that's not something that's always going to help either, but I think it's just take it step by step.
For sure.
Just be mindful of what you're eating, diet and nutrition. And then I mentioned earlier about therapy. Therapy is huge. Definitely look into that. And these are all things that anyone can really do, even if you don't have PMDD. So that's the great thing about that. I haven't taken actual medication for it, but I know it's an option for people who choose to. And I was getting to the point, because I wanted to not take medication, but I was getting to the point where I'm like, oh man, I think I need to try. But so far, luckily I haven't. But there are SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SNRI, selective, I don't even know how to pronounce these big things. Selective I don't even know how to say that, Lindz. I'm going to just say SNRIs. I don't even know how to say this one. Do you know how to say that?
Drospirenone containing oral contraceptive on an extended cycle regimen.
I don't know these big words, but basically medication.
They're basically antidepressants, right?
Yeah, antidepressants.
Yeah.
And then there's chemical menopause, and then like the last option, if you really want to, I think, is having surgery, and I think it's called, is it hysterectomy, where you just take everything out?
They take the uterus out.
Yeah,
I think it's hysterectomy.
Yeah. So that's like last resort, and I've read stories of women having to do that to get rid of their symptoms.
Wow.
Yeah.
Would you ever consider chemical menopause? I've never heard of that, but I guess it makes sense, like where you can actually trigger menopause so that you don't ovulate anymore.
I think right now I won't consider it because I feel like, I don't know. I don't know. It's just not something. Yeah. I think I would try the antidepressants before that.
Got it.
And then if it's like, I'm so desperate, then maybe. But I'm also in my mid 30s. I'm 35, so I don't really feel like, I mean, it's not that far. It's like how many years from now, right? Like
I'm 41,
20 years.
And I think menopause or pre or perimenopause is on my
it's
horizon.
Like 40s, right? 50s, late 40s, early 50s.
I think symptoms can start showing in a woman's like mid 40s. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I don't really think I really would take that as an option. But if the antidepressants works, then maybe. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think what's really, really, really important is having a strong support system and people who will listen to you and, validate what you're going through. Because I will say I have always been supported by just amazing, loving people. And especially where I used to work, they were very understanding. And if I couldn't come into work, they would actually call me like, I just want to check in. Is everything okay? And I'll be like sobbing on the phone, like, yeah, like I'll be okay. Like, but yeah, so support system is super important. And if there's people in your life that don't even care to listen to you, care to believe you, then you don't need them in your life, because you're not going to get better with having those people around.
Right.
You need to get the help you need, and you need to be surrounded by loving people. And yeah, that's a huge thing for me, for sure.
Yeah, I think talking about it when it comes to a host of different things that you could be dealing with, talking about it is like such an easy, well, maybe not an easy thing to do, but it doesn't cost money to talk about it. It doesn't, you don't need an appointment to talk to a friend. So if you have a support system, like you said, that definitely, I can imagine how much of a great deal of weight is lifted just by talking to somebody that's willing to listen and that wants to learn and wants to help.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And that's why I think it's dope that there is a month dedicated to PMDD awareness. And I love how you said that so many women reached out to you after you went public on social media, because that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
Like you want to spread the word that this is a thing, and it's not that rare. I think it says 1 in 20 women deal with PMDD. That's very common. I feel like
it's not even reported right, because it's probably not known. So
true.
It could be more.
Might be more than that. Yeah.
So, random, our light is actually teal, which is the color of PMDD awareness.
Oh,
isn't that awesome. So perfect? And we didn't even plan that. And I was like, wow, look at that. That's so perfect.
That is very much kismet. Is that what it's called?
Or
when things happen coincidentally, like in a divine way or something like that. Yeah. I love that.
It worked. I know. Well, that's pretty much it for PMDD. There's so much to talk about that, but that was kind of like the gist of it. And again, I'm going to give that website a shout out, iapmd.org. We'll have it in the description and all of that good stuff. If you have any questions, I'm no expert, but I mean, shoot, for someone who's living it, I can only speak from my experience. But if you have any questions for me, like shoot us a message, comment, DM. I'll be happy to share my experiences.
I just want to thank Hazel for being transparent and telling her story and educating all of our listeners on this disorder. I think, like you said, it doesn't get talked about enough. I think there's a lot of women out there that go through these symptoms and don't know what PMDD is. So I just want to thank you for taking the time out and for, opening up and telling us how you had dealt with it and are dealing with it and the different obstacles that you went through to get to this point. So thanks,
of course,
Hazel.
I'm really happy to share, because I will tell you, it was not easy first opening up, because it's such a vulnerable thing. You're like, oh, my period. Like, who wants to be that girl? Like, oh, my period. Yeah, I have all these problems. But, you know, like, I felt a lot of relief, like, once I started talking about it, and then hearing the feedback from other women, like, oh my goodness. I think even guys, like, oh, I think I know somebody that, you know, like, it needs to be talked about. And yeah, I'm definitely not ashamed to talk about it anymore. And again, like, I'll be happy to share my favorite resources to you to get the help you need, because, you know, it's not something fun to deal with at all. But yeah, I'm glad to talk about it. And
yeah, there we go. You know, women, our health issues are to be taken seriously, and it's not to be swept under the rug. So if anything, if you guys take away anything from this part of the episode, just know that, yeah, we deserve to be taken care of and to be taken seriously.
Yeah, and that wraps it up for this episode. We hope you guys enjoyed listening to all the different things we talked about this time.
Definitely. And be sure you listen to us on all streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube.
Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and give us those ratings. That will help us out so much. And follow us on, did you say social media already?
Not yet.
Brain foggy. At the.millennials on all of our social media.
That's right.
Well, I'm Hazel Joy.
And I'm Lindsay Does It.
Cut you off.
No, that's okay. I wasn't sure what to say next.
That's the millennials.
And we'll catch you on the next one.
Peace.
Bye.